Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, here today to talk about A Quiet Place Part 2 on 4K. That is right, guys. I just got done watching this movie on 4K, and I don't usually do a lot of reviews of newer films mainly because I don't usually buy them, and I just got a lot of like past 4K releases of the newer films that came out for Black Friday. So I watched Quiet Place 2. That was the first one that I watched on 4K, guys, and I just felt compelled to talk about this movie, to talk about this transfer, to just talk about my second experience with this movie, because I did see it in theaters back in May. I think, May is when this came out, 2021. So we're still in 2021, right? It's just time has no meaning anymore. But let's get right into it, guys, talking about this film, A Quiet Place 2. So this is a very interesting movie to talk about for me, and I imagine a lot of people were hit with this, but just personally, I remember when this movie was getting ready to come out, I was so hyped because I saw A Quiet Place back in 2018 in the theaters. Loved this movie, still love this movie. I think it's phenomenal. Great, not directorial debut. I think John Krasinski directed some stuff before this, but just really kind of cementing John Krasinski as like a big time director. Like he really did an excellent job with this movie, both directing, writing, and starring in this film. And I absolutely love this movie. I think it's one of the better horror science fiction films of like the 21st century. So probably one of the best, maybe like top 10, but it's an excellent movie. Loved it when I saw it in the theaters, and I was greatly anticipating A Quiet Place 2. And of course, everybody probably knows this story. Everybody probably went through this, but I remember driving in my car on my way to see another movie. I think it was the Ben Affleck film, The Way Back. And I used to go to the theater like all the time. I don't think a lot of people realize that watch this channel, because I didn't really do a lot on this channel back when I was doing my weekly runs of the theaters. I used to go to the theater like 1 to 2 times a week. I really don't do that anymore. I've gone to the theater maybe 5 or 6 times since they've reopened, but it's not a regular occurrence like it used to be for me. But I used to go to the theater like twice a week. So I was on my way to see The Way Back with Ben Affleck. On the radio, I heard that A Quiet Place 2 shifted its release date. It was going to get delayed. I don't think they announced a new date at that time. No Time to Die had just got delayed as well. You know, of course, the world was going crazy. COVID madness, the pandemic, all that stuff. Everything got shut down, quarantine. You all know how it goes. You lived it just like I did. But it was just such a disappointment. Like this movie in particular, because it was the start of it all. It just felt like the start of everything just breaking down, society collapsing. All started with A Quiet Place 2 getting delayed, and I just remember hearing that on my radio. I'm like, shit, it's really getting bad out there. It's really good. So we had to wait for this movie. They announced new release dates for it. John Krasinski, credit to him, was always adamant from the very beginning. This is going to be seen in the theaters. I'm not releasing this on a streaming service, so kudos to him. I'm glad he held out, because this movie did pretty well as for the box office when it was finally released in theaters. So fast forward all the way to May 2021. Me and my wife were super excited to go see this movie in theaters. Like I said, it's one of my most anticipated movies. I was just so hyped to see this movie in the theaters. We saw it. We came out. We actually had a reaction, because I've got another channel. I can link that down below. Married with Media. So me and my wife saw this in theaters. We reacted to it. We did a whole hour-long live stream talking about this movie. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay, to be honest. When I first saw this movie in theaters, I was a little conflicted on some things, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But overall, I would say that I liked A Quiet Place 2 much better than I liked, I liked the original Quiet Place. I'm already messing up. I like the original Quiet Place better than I liked A Quiet Place 2. So rewatching this movie last night. So of course, this movie directed by John Krasinski, starring Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, Noah Jupe, Cillian Murphy's in this film. Djimon Hounsou, I know I'm saying his name wrong, but he's in a lot of, I think he was in Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's in this movie as well. The movie picks up right where the first one left off. So, you know, John Krasinski, of course, dies at the end of the first film. So this one picks up right when Emily Blunt like takes out those two alien creatures in the basement with the shotgun. Awesome ending. That ending was so cool. And then they're leaving the house because they have to find help. They have to find somebody else out there that can help them. They're running out of resources. They can't stay in that house anymore after the attack from the aliens in the first movie. So they're on their own. They're out to find help. stumble across Cillian Murphy in his little kind of abandoned like mining train facility place, and then you know, stuff happens from there. I don't want to spoil this entire movie because I know that there may still be people that haven't seen this movie. It is a fairly new movie. It's not like 20 or 30 years old like most of the movies I review on this channel. So I got into the setup of the movie, but what I failed to talk about was the initial 15-minute sequence at the beginning of the movie that actually bring back John Krasinski's character of Lee Abbott and the whole family, and they go all the way back to day one of this invasion, this alien invasion that happens, which I'm assuming that's what it is. I think it's pretty clear in this movie especially that that's what it is. But this 15-minute sequence at the beginning of this movie is, first off, easily the best part of this film. It's probably easily the best part of this entire franchise. I just want a movie of this entire like beginning sequence. I want the origin of what happened. This scene is so incredibly tense. I love stuff like this. I eat it up. Just knowing what's going to happen, feeling the tension, the dread, just how fast is it going to happen? Like who's going to be involved? Like who's going to get taken out? Like what's the order of events? Like what's the sequence of events from everybody being calm to kind of panic to just full on chaos in the streets? Like I loved everything about this entire sequence. It's so thrilling. It's so enthralling. It's so well acted. It's so well shot. Just like every sequence and scene in this whole entire thing. And again, I don't want to give away too much, but basically like they're at a ball game. They're at their son Marcus's ball game, and they see this like meteor asteroid thing like coming down, but it's coming down very slowly. And it's the alien ship or whatever. I really want to get into like what that is. Like what does that look like? Is it an asteroid? Is it a spaceship? Like what is that? But anyway, I get these like it transports me back to like the Independence Day vibes that I had when I watched that movie for the first time when I was a kid. Just that sequence where the aliens are coming in, their spaceships are disrupting the atmosphere. You see the clouds, the fire, all that stuff. Just the feeling of dread, the tension, like there's just nothing like it. I love it. It just transports me back when I was a kid watching those old school invasion films, disaster movies. I love the sequence at the beginning of this. So then they all start to walk away. The aliens get to them like very quickly. Like it looks like it's way off in the distance, and it feels like maybe like, because this is all done in like kind of like one shot sequence, it feels like maybe 2 minutes later the aliens are running it. So they must run like super quick, which they do, but it felt like a little quick for them to get to that town. But anyway, it's such a great sequence. You know, they're kind of, if I got one nitpick, I actually said this when I was in the theater to my wife. I was like, how does John Krasinski know so quickly that to be quiet is that you're going to be safe if you're quiet from these creatures? How does he know that he needs to be quiet? Is it just something is it just like instinct or something? Like how does he know that? That's the one issue I had, because when they go in the diner, they have to all be quiet and stuff like that. So anyway, I feel like I'm talking way too long with this opening sequence, but I love this whole opening sequence. I wish that the whole damn movie was this opening sequence, but that is not to say the rest of the movie is bad, that it's not good, that it's not, showing signs of greatness at some point. But basically you go on, you follow Emily Blunt and her kids, and they meet up Cillian Murphy, and then the daughter runs away because she thinks she has, the answer to like saving the world, which is basically her hearing aid. Like it's like acts as like a weapon of sorts, because it emits this like transmission that kind of is the weakness basically to the monsters. They flare up, they show their weakness, they're like paralyzed, and then they can shoot them in the sweet spot, their face, and then they die. So she has like the secret weapon, like the way to beat them. So she goes off because she wants to try to find this group that's transmitting the Under the Sea song, Somewhere Under the Sea. And see if they can help her like transmit the signal, I guess, to help take out all these aliens. So she runs off by herself, and then Emily Blunt, who's back there with Noah Jupe's character, she has to tend to him and his baby because he got in an accident coming into that facility with a bear trap, which is another incredible sequence. I love the way that was played off. Just Noah Jupe is such a great young actor. He's been in so many great movies, Honey Boy, Ford v Ferrari. His career is just it's going to be great. She has to stay back with them, so she begs Cillian Murphy's character, who doesn't really want anything to do with them, to go off and find her daughter, and then they meet up, and then it's basically like they split up, which it happens a lot. Like I think of The Walking Dead, post-apocalyptic. Characters are always splitting up. They're going their separate ways. And it's always just comes off as extremely stupid. Like you guys need to stay together. But she goes off, Cillian Murphy goes after her, and it's kind of the tale of both of them. I don't want to give away too much, but the action in this movie is still really good throughout. The creature effects and stuff, it's still extremely tense, still extremely thrilling. Throughout this movie. If, I'll get into my complaints here in a second. All the performances are great. Emily Blunt's great. My conflicting experience with this is when I saw this in the theater, I was just expecting this movie, I guess, from the way that the first one left off, the way that Emily Blunt kind of comes into her own. She kind of takes up the mantle as the protector of this family. She has the shotgun. She's this badass like action heroine by the end of A Quiet Place 2. And I thought this was going to pick up with this. And I thought this was really going to be like a vehicle for Emily Blunt to kind of showcase her skills as like an action hero, kind of like a Ripley in Aliens or something like that. If you want to compare Quiet Place to Alien, and this would be like Aliens. A Quiet Place 2 would be Aliens. So I was expecting like that kind of a showcase of her skills and her talents in this movie. This movie doesn't really take that approach. It's not really about that. It's more about the kids and how they come into their own as characters, their arc, their journey. It's all about them. It's really all about Millicent Simmons and how she kind of comes into her own, how she's kind of like her father. She's trying to save the family. She's trying to save the world. She has that instinct. It's about Noah Jupe and him being kind of a coward in a sense. I mean, he is a small kid. So all kids are, you don't expect a 10-year-old to go fight freaking creatures from another world. That's just not realistic. He's just afraid all the time. He's not willing to like stand up and take charge. So it's really about his arc and how he comes into his own as the protector of the family as well. So it's both the kids by the end of it just kind of standing up and taking charge. So when you look at it from that approach, rewatching it and knowing that I embraced this story a lot more the second time than I did the first time. So I would say my experience with this movie on rewatch was a lot better than the first time. So I did really enjoy this movie. But one thing I'll say is that there is a significantly less amount of tension in this one than the first one. And it kind of takes away the whole quiet gimmick. Like there's still quiet sequences in this film, but I feel like they're a lot louder. I feel like they're a lot less careful in this movie than they were in the first one. And the characters make a lot of dumb decisions throughout the film. So, I just think that it doesn't utilize that gimmick as well as they did in the first one, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you see a lot of the monsters in this one. You really see them like in full form attacking people. You see them flaring up all the time. You're seeing the monsters like fully in your face the entire film. Which I thought, the creature effects are pretty good. They're good, but they just look like copies of the Demogorgons from Stranger Things when you see them up close. I like the approach that the first one took, where you didn't really see them. You kind of just saw the shape of them like attacking stuff, and you heard them like crawling around and stuff like that, but you didn't really see them. So I understand it has to progress, it has to evolve. You need to at some point see these like full on taking charge and killing people and all this stuff. And there's a lot of that in this movie, in particular in the opening of the film. But then there's another sequence towards the end on the island. So you see the monster a lot more, which I know it kind of has to do. It can't be like exactly like the first one. Like it has to progress. It has to tell a different type of story. But I'm always of the mindset that I would rather the monster stay hidden for as long as possible, and show me less and tell me more, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So but yeah, it's still a great movie, guys. It's still a really good sequel. I would give this a 4 out of 5 on my first watch, and right now rewatching it again, a 4.25 out of 5, where I think as the first one is a 4.5 out of 5. So I think they're pretty on par with each other. They're great companion pieces. Like watch Quiet Place and watch Quiet Place 2. Like this one picks up right where it left off. I talk about that all the time. I love when movies do that. But this is a really great sequel. I liked it significantly more on the rewatch than I did the first time. So, and I can't wait. The way this leaves off, like I just can't wait for A Quiet Place Part 3. But visually, guys, getting into the 4K visuals of this, this is in Dolby Vision, which I imagine a lot of people are going to be happy with that. That is the highest level of HDR presentation right there. But yeah, Paramount did an excellent job with this 4K release. And I don't talk about a lot of newer movies in 4K, so I don't really know how to articulate how good a transfer is, because as we know with new movies like that, most of them look great anyway. Most of them are shot digitally. So I review a lot of movies that were shot on film and then upscaled to 4K. So you can kind of tell the stark differences between those two, from like a movie that was made in the 70s and then it was remastered in 4K nowadays. You can tell the difference between that. Watching the bits of the Blu-ray that I did with this one and then the 4K, there's not a whole lot of difference, but you can tell that that big difference in contrast level, and the colors are much more vibrant in the 4K. The blacks are a lot deeper. It gives a lot more depth to this movie, just overall visually. You can tell a pretty significant difference with the 4K with this one to the Blu-ray. And it's also another interesting thing to note, the first Quiet Place was filmed all on 35 millimeter. So that's why you can tell like a certain level of grain throughout this one, which is a fact that I didn't know. I might have known it at some time, but I didn't know until I did some research on that one. This one is filmed in 35 millimeter as well, but it also has some sequences that were shot digitally. I imagine the initial like attack sequence at the town, the day one sequence was probably shot all digitally, and then stuff throughout the film in the post-apocalyptic world was shot on 35 millimeter. So looks great, and I just think that's really cool that John Krasinski made that decision to do it like that, because it does give the film just a grittier feel to it. There's some nice grain consistency throughout this. I love watching film. I talked about this before, but I like the film grain because it reminds me that I'm watching an actual film. It's not too clean. It's not too glossy. I don't like films all the time that look like that, because then it kind of borderlines looking like almost like a cartoon when you're watching it. So I like that real film feel that this one has. And yeah, it just looks absolutely phenomenal on 4K. So I absolutely recommend picking this one up on 4K. There is a pretty big difference between the 4K and the Blu-ray of this one, just with the black levels and the vibrancy and the colors and stuff. So the audio, it does have Dolby Atmos on both the Blu-ray and the 4K. The sound design in this movie, in the first movie, is just spectacular. It's like some of the best sound design you'll ever hear. Just the use of like quiet and how they just bring in certain stuff and use noise to really ratchet up the tension. It's just excellent. So getting into the packaging, guys, this is pretty standard packaging. I don't love this poster for A Quiet Place 2. I feel like they did some better ones. I like the one where it's kind of the silhouette of them walking with the trees and stuff in the background. I think that would have been a better color and a better cover, and it would have looked good alongside this one as well. But this is a pretty good cover. Again, Paramount does a pretty good job with their packaging and stuff, and there it is without the slipcover. I'm not going to cut to do an unboxing or anything like that, but I'll kind of zoom in to show you all the special features and the casting lists and the synopsis and all that good stuff. So getting into the special features, there's some nice behind the scenes special features. There's probably about 5 of them. They're probably about 5 to 10 minutes long. The one with John Krasinski talking about the making of the exclusive director's diary with John Krasinski. That's a really cool special feature, just talking about some of the effects of the movie and how they did them, like the car flipping scenes in the initial and the barrels blowing out. Just kind of getting into in depth how they shot some of these sequences and just him working with some of the actors and his wife on set. So that's a really good special feature. The other ones, they're just pretty like standard behind the scenes special features. One interesting thing and kind of a negative with this one is there is no audio commentary. I would have loved the audio commentary with John Krasinski and maybe the cinematographer of this movie. Maybe Emily Blunt could have done it with them too. It would have been really cool. So no audio commentary, but maybe later on down the line, John Krasinski will film one. Maybe they just didn't feel a need to do it with this one. So that's kind of lacking with that special feature, because I feel like, again, I don't cover a lot of the new releases, but I looked on a couple of my 4K releases back there, the other ones that I got that were new, like Godzilla vs. Kong has a commentary on it as well. So I know they do commentaries for new movies, but they just didn't do one for this one. But with that, guys, that is my thoughts on A Quiet Place Part 2, the 4K. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts, my long-winded thoughts always on the movie, on the transfer, all that stuff. Again, I enjoyed this movie a lot more watching it at home on the rewatch. So appreciate you guys watching. Please like, comment down below your thoughts on this film. I know you got some thoughts on this movie. A lot of people saw this movie, so comment down below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and turn on those bell notifications for all of those future videos, and we'll see you next time.